Hi, it's Vince Hall here from vincehallconsulting.com and Build Intellect Ltd. So I'm talking today with Dr. Harry Moyse, and he's a data scientist. He's a former client. Just want to see about his experience with us in career coaching. How you doing, Harry?
Heyo. Very good. Yourself?
Yeah, I'm doing great, thanks. Good day. So yeah, hope you're having a good day. And yeah, shall we get into asking some questions about,
Yeah, absolutely.
so you can give us some feedback?
Sure.
So yeah, could you tell us a bit about yourself briefly?
So I guess when I was a little bit younger, I thought of myself as the Indiana Jones of the maths department. Um, so I had this and I guess that's not because necessarily of my brilliance, but just the wonderfulness of various maths departments that I worked with. So when I was a wee master's student, I had this lovely opportunity to go out to New Zealand and use lots of interesting kinds of calculus and things like that to halt the extinction of this species of snails. And that worked really well. And because of projects like that really took off, when I came back to England, I then had interesting work to do over here. So I remember playing around at the start of my PhD with, genetically modifying things and yeah, all sorts of coolness around genetics, and then finally settling down to the idea of working in kidney transplant. So trying to create machine learning and also sort of differential algebra objects that would lead to better human kidney transplants. And that was a really fun adventure. And then at the end of that, I took on some nice academic work. And again, not because of my brilliance, but because of the university's affection for me, I got this wonderful teaching post where instead of being in the maths department, I was working with Warwick's department into the Institute of Advanced Teaching and Learning, and really had carte blanche just to teach anything that I wanted to, and not just within subjects. So not just, you'd be teaching English or whatever, but teaching, doing stuff with the intersection of subjects. So we did some really interesting work that was sort of joining together like medieval poetry and fairy stories and complex maths. And it was just a wonderful environment to be in. And so I was enjoying the academic ride a lot at that time, but I thought, I'm getting a little bit old now. So if I want to find out if I'm going to have a normal life that's outside of a university, I need to do it now rather than in 5 years' time, because if you try the real world and you realize you hate it, then you've gained a lot of information and you can just go back. But if you wait 10 years and you've written a million papers and you've done loads of great postdocs, and then you can't move forward in academia, as is sometimes the case, and you try the real world, then well, you don't have another choice. So my logic was this would be a really good time to sort of diversify what I was doing, and get into the world of sort of machine learning outside of weird science projects, and do that in the real world. So Vince was my buddy. I'm not sure if I'm meant to be talking to you or talking to the audience. So Vince was my buddy from the time that we did PhDs together. So he sat across from me, and we spent a lot of time just chatting as PhD students do. He did some really phenomenal work with protein folding, if I remember. And Vince had already gone off and made that transition, had that adventure of learning data science. So when I heard that he was offering some coaching, I thought that'd be really ideal, because for all of the goodness of the academic world, is it really makes you very narrow in sort of your mindset. So I knew how to do the things that I had done really, really well. So, you know, I in a sense, I could think of myself as a world expert in this thing and that thing. But, you know, when you're looking for a machine learning job or a data science job, they're not necessarily looking for someone who's an expert in a technique that they're not going to use. What they want is someone who's in some senses a bit of a generalist, so knows, you know, the 20 or 30 different common techniques, and, you know, is able to appropriately select something from that toolkit. So sort of my plan with Vince was to do that and sort of assemble that mental toolkit, so that rather than just being there and sort of pushing differential evolution, which was, you know, the technique I had worked on in my PhD, rather than pushing that on everyone, taking something that was, you know, really gonna work, really gonna produce the best results. And that was really fun. So that worked pretty well. And then towards the end of the time that I was spending with Vince, I thought it would be fun to also try something else. So one of the great advantages of life in data science as a consultant is you have a lot of freedom with your time. So you might have a project that you need to do for like 3 months, and then when the project is over, you can have 3 months off, which is cool. Or if you have a situation with, like I do with my current employer, you get to work as many hours a week as you like, and you get to have as many hours off a week as you like. So I thought it would be really fun to, in my spare time, start a company that I had always imagined. So this is something that had come to me in part when I was an undergraduate, but sort of assembled more in my brain during my PhD, and in a sense been really inspired by lectures that I had onto on stuff like the immune system, and also the way that genes work together, and the way that you can model all of that with sort of network models and things like that. So I had this idea of trying to produce algorithms that would help people have better online conversations. So, like, you know, if you're a fan of Socrates, if you read your dialogues with him, and you see all of these great conversations where you have Socrates and you have an interlocutor, and because of this disagreement, the reader actually becomes better informed. And, you know, and if you want to read something more modern, you can find that something quite similar in the Talmud. You can find some similar stuff in Thomas Aquinas, where you have this dialectic, where you have the wise man, or the person that's speaking, you have the interlocutor, and rather than it being like a Twitter thing where the stupidest thing that is said becomes the most retweeted and the loudest, it becomes a situation where everyone gets wiser because of the disagreement. So my current side project, in alongside my really lovely consultancy work, is producing something that is called Thinkerbot for Discord, which is exactly that. So it's still in its sort of infemal stages at the moment, but this is great. And I was very lucky to get some funding to do that. So again, it's been a very cool adventure. It's, of course, like any adventure, there's been a lot of difficulty and a lot of risk and a lot of danger, but harkening back to that initial image of Indiana Jones the mathematician, as a child, I always really loved reading about, you know, this hero that goes out on a quest, and, you know, he thinks, you know, it's okay to risk life and limb to find the Holy Grail, or to throw the ring into Mount Doom. And I think because of that, I was very encouraged, especially in this kind of time of my life where I'm in that period of yet late youth where I'm not yet so old that I have a family that depend on me, and not yet so young that I want to play video games all day and waste all my time. I kind of thought, I kind of felt like going out and taking all of those risks and doing all of those things. And thankfully, in part to God's blessing and in part to Vince's brilliant tutelage, that's come together. So I now have this interesting life where I work on my cool sort of vanity project a decent amount of the time, and we're getting funding with that, and hopefully it's going to become something that's on release to the general public. And the other half of the time get to do very fun machine learning stuff with the people that I contract for.
Fantastic. No, that's
I hope that wasn't an overlong response, Vince.
Well, that's I think it's a good explanation of the process for you. Yeah. So, that's fantastic how you managed to craft the sort of life that you're looking for, take the right risks at the right time to achieve what you're looking for. And yeah, I'm glad to help along the way. I'm really glad I can
No worries,
help
buddy.
to make that possible.
So for the users who are only just becoming a part of the conversation between me and Vince, like we were talking about my dream project of helping people to communicate back to get together probably like 5-7 years ago when we were both young PhD students.
Yeah,
So
yeah. So
yeah, it's very cool
really
that
cool.
it's finally happening.
Yeah, it's really cool, man. So that's fantastic. So let me see. I guess you've explained why you went with us. Yeah, and we've known each other for a long time. And
I mean, I
both
can
have
tell
good
that I
skills.
can sing your praises a little bit more to the user, to the viewers, if you like, Vince. It's just
I'm not trying
so
to get a plug there.
I recently told someone the completely wrong thing that Vince was used to be the best at. And since then I've now been a little bit not sure. So I think what I said was that you had used what was it? Vector support machines in your sort of once upon a time best in the world protein folding algorithm. And it wasn't that, it was self-organizing maps, right?
That's right. Yeah, and it
Yeah,
was estimating structures of proteins from that was scanned with UV light. So it's called circular dichroism. But yeah,
that's awesome.
that's great. Uh, yeah, so I'm not an expert in protein folding either, but yeah, that's great.
Yeah,
You're good at singing praises.
well, I mean, so it's recognizing value where you see it is an important skill.
Yeah.
And so part of my thinking process was, Vince was a very honest guy, someone that I had a high estimate of his character. And I also knew that, in the past, he had been dramatically successful in this area of computers. So Vince had gone on to, I think, postdoc after university. And then I'm trying to think, it was better than a fellowship that you got. What was the thing that you did?
So I did an industry job for a few years, and then I came back to the university and did a research fellow job.
Research
Yeah,
fellow.
postdoc.
Yes. So Vince had got all of these hugely prestigious things, and he had done some really great research. So I was very confident that doing this with him would be really good because, smart guy, good character, very successful. Yeah, that sounds good.
Well, fantastic to hear it said like that. Thank you, Harry. Yeah. So, can I ask, like, what specifically were the best parts of the most useful parts of the coaching I did with you? Because
That's just going to make me sound stupid. So let me begin that answer by telling everyone that they're stupid.
well, everyone has parts that they're really brilliant at. Like you said, you were excellent at narrow stuff, and you wanted to broaden it up. So I always feel stupid when I learn that I didn't know something, but everyone has things they don't know about.
So my experience of learning to code in any language is the hardest bit is you don't know what you don't know. So I think casting my mind back to when I learned Python for the first time, I found like this YouTuber who was giving lectures on Python, and they were really good. And I downloaded all the software like he said, and I wrote my first program like he said, and I tried to click the play button that makes your program run. And because the software had been updated since he had made that YouTube video, the button wasn't where he said it was, and it also wasn't called what he said it was called. So this is PyCharm, if anyone's interested. And that meant that I couldn't run the program. So I think I spent 2 days. So I was also doing other tasks during those 2 days, but sort of scratching my head and thinking, how on earth am I ever going to get this Hello World program to run? Before I think my friend Jeremy, who now works at Facebook, gave me, that this is where the button is. That's how you press it. Talk. And like that really impacted me, because the hard bit of learning to program wasn't necessarily understanding strings or vectors or anything like that, but was dealing with the fact that I didn't know what I didn't know. And having someone intelligent in the room was infinitely better than having someone intelligent on YouTube. So when I was thinking about picking up sklearn or whatever for the first time, I was very aware that, if I read research papers on the coolest new algorithm, that it may well require a really specific version of the software. I mean, this is a thing that plagues people in neural networks, is that this paper is written with this version of the software, this paper is written with that version of the software, and how are you going to install them both on your computer? Like, you have so many questions. So I knew that if I had someone who was going to take responsibility for answering those questions, I could move forward really fast. And more than that, so it's not necessarily time expensive for the guy who comes into the room and says, look, here is the run button on your computer that you've lost. But it's incredibly time saving for you. So I knew that talking to Vince, like for a couple of hours or whatever it was about various projects and various things that he saw as the core curriculum, was going to be really helpful. But more than that, having someone who was definitely going to always answer the question of, this thing isn't working and I don't know why it's not working, I knew that was going to make my life much better and make this process much, much faster.
Excellent. Yeah. So fantastic. Yeah, it just seems easy when you build up years of experience with stuff. You're just like, oh yeah, I know where that is. But
yeah,
when you're scratching your head for weeks, some cases, then it's like, damn.
Yeah, just for the viewers, like if you have a friend that is struggling to learn their first coding thing. So what I've done since Vince is, just whenever someone wants to learn the basics, just try and get them into the same room as me and have them, over there at another desk, just working on it, because it literally is that thing of they're stuck and it will require 30 seconds of your time to debug their hello world, but that could save 30 minutes or maybe 5 hours of their time. So that was such a big deal.
Yeah.
So do that. I don't know if
definitely get help. Yeah, this was a problem. Like when I was doing my PhD to begin with, I thought, right, this is my project. I'm responsible for getting this done. 3 years, and then I found that actually, when I just ask someone else, there are lots of really intelligent people around me. I eventually figured out, if I just ask them, do you know about this? They usually said, yeah, there it is. It's very easy. And then problem solved really quickly. I'm like, why didn't I ask for help quicker?
Yeah.
But yeah.
Yeah, that's a deep question. So I remember doing my GCSE exams, and I was like, oh my goodness, GCSE is such a high level of maths. And like one of the things that really screwed me up was because I saw GCSE as being this pinnacle of education. I didn't think so. Whenever I was solving a quadratic equation and I got it a little bit wrong, so suddenly instead of having this nice, neat, rational solution, you have some weird irrational number. I never thought, wow, this is a super weird irrational number, and I'm trying to work with it in my head. I always thought, the GCSE people, they just want to see how smart you are, and they expect you to be able to do this. And consistently overestimating the sort of the requirement for intelligence was part of what made my GCSEs harder for me.
Right.
And like that definitely continues way up to PhD level, is that if you think, oh, this is the be all and end all of research, then you try to be much cleverer than the problems need, and you don't rely on the people around you, as Vince said, and that makes, as soon as you build those relationships, everything gets better.
Yeah. Relationships more important than I used to think. Yeah. Excellent. So let me see, like did you get good results from the coaching that we had? Like,
yeah, well, yeah, so I mean,
pretty much we kind of covered that.
So the Thinkabot project got funding, and that's really good because there's a huge difference between having a project that you want to work on and a project that someone is paying you a small amount of money to work on. Because as soon as you have that second person in the mix, it's a relational thing. It's you also have deadlines, you also have timelines, you also have someone that can be happy if you do well and someone that's unhappy if you don't do well. So having that behind you, as well as that money that's making the wheels turn, it's just amazing. So that came out of Vince's stuff, and really the job that I do now, like a lot of it begins with the time that I spent with Vince. So absolutely, I had a good understanding of all of a lot of these techniques, but I certainly wasn't a generalist before Vince. And with the kind of the job that I do as my main other thing, really what I am employed there is as a generalist who just, you're a professional smart person who should know all of these things. And in a lot of cases, my introduction to them was during time with Vince.
Okay. Yeah. So I guess every role is a little bit different, but they usually say like we want these skills, and they're usually pretty similar across lots of different roles. But
That's true.
Yeah, certainly academia is more like, we want you to become the world expert in this one tiny thing that no one's heard of.
Yeah.
And that
yeah
10 people in the world care about.
Yeah, that's
But
true.
actually it has an impact on these other things. Yeah.
Yeah.
So that sounds like a great thing that you've managed to craft for yourself.
Yeah, I'm very happy with it.
Passion project, and you got the general skills to keep a reasonable income and flexible time. That sounds ideal. Excellent.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So yeah, do you think this would be useful coaching for other data scientists, data professionals, machine learning people?
Yeah, 100%. So let me. Yeah, so I think in life, in general, you don't know what you don't know. So a nice way of thinking about Gödel's incompleteness theorem is that if you have a system that's sufficiently complicated that you can, do basic arithmetic on it, then you write down a list of true propositions or axioms for that system, and that list of axioms is incomplete, or so that list there are other true propositions by definition that aren't on your list. and that's incredibly significant. And you could think of what like this, the heart of physics is doing is we're taking this axiomatized system, we're doing some maths on it, and then we're doing a nice theoretical physics, and then at some point we're building like a hadron collider or something, and we're doing some physical experiments to get something that we can't get from the maths, that you can't get by thinking about the problem on your own. And again, I'd see this as part of the power of community, and Vince is certainly a great exemplar of that, is that if you're working with other people, especially smart people who are in some sense taking responsibility for how you're thinking and what you know, there are going to be things that are that are true that are not on your list of propositions. And recognizing that is incredibly powerful, because quite often the problem that you're banging your head on the wall about, the issue is not that you're not smart enough, but just that there's some simple toolkit, some simple set of propositions somewhere that someone else has discovered that's going to unlock that for you. And I'd see Vince's coaching as hopefully being that for a lot of people.
Yeah, I hope so. Like to be helpful there. Yeah, wow. So yeah, you have like your known unknowns and your unknown unknowns.
Yeah.
Hopefully you get more of them into the first camp, more of the unknowns into the knowns, and hopefully you move forward.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I guess, like, can I ask now, with your greater experience and understanding of like data science and machine learning stuff, what's your feedback on, like, what's your best advice for people a bit more junior than yourself? You're doing a bit of coaching and teaching yourself.
Yeah, that's a good question. Let me think about this well. So people seem smarter than they are. So there's this famous Einstein quote, which is some small child who's struggling with maths says, Einstein, I really struggle with maths. And Einstein's response is, whatever your difficulties are, mine are greater. And this is funny, because the intuitive way of understanding that is, however bad this child is at maths, Einstein is worse at maths, and that's not quite true. So often what happens when you get good at maths or something like that is you unlock a new difficulty level. So you used to be maybe top of your class at addition, and now you've got multiplication. Or you used to be top of your class at calculus, now you've got vector calculus. You used to be really good at playing around with all of these matrices and vector calculus tools that Maxwell was developed so that we could have a theory of electromagnetism. And now the reward for that is that you're Einstein, and you are the first person in the world who's breaking their mind apart with relativity. And every situation is you won, so it's got a little bit more difficult. And when you're on the outside of data science, what you imagine is that everyone finds everything easy except for you, because you're only seeing their successes. So you're looking at Einstein and you're only seeing, like the papers and, the wonderful curly hair, and just imagining that his life is a string of champagne and brilliant scientific results. But actually the heart of it is staying up all night doing maths problems. So there's a famous story about maths, Einstein, getting a pen and writing out maths on his bed sheets when he couldn't sleep.
Wow.
And I'd say that this is quite often the heart of intellectual work, is that you are doing something that's genuinely impressively difficult, and it feels horrible to you and it looks easy to everyone else. So if you are feeling that feeling of, oh, I couldn't possibly do this, this is much too hard, what you have to do is stick with it. Stick with it.
I love that.
Maybe there's some, maybe, plug for Vince, maybe there's some smart people out here that could mentor you, but there's not really ever a point where that goes away. Or at least if there is, I haven't reached it.
Sure. Yeah. Wow. So yeah, I think that's some great advice I hear related to what you said. Like, was it Winston Churchill or someone said? I saw the quote recently. Like, just never give up at doing stuff. Just don't. It's not worth it.
Yeah.
It's like I've seen a picture of like a
Yeah.
miner mining over here, and there's another one over here, and he finds a bit of gold, and he goes away, and this one's like that deep, and he said, "Oh, that guy found gold over there. I'm going to go over there," and he digs and digs and digs and doesn't find anything, and then but you can see a bit below where he was digging, and there's an enormous amount of gold, and like just stick with it.
Yeah, absolutely.
Brilliant.
Absolutely.
Yeah, like that image. Brilliant. Yeah, so many intelligent things that you said. Hard to know how to respond to them all, but yeah.
That's
really
okay.
cool.
So it's because of my time teaching at university, I'm used to doing monologues, and part of the goal of doing a lecture is you don't want the students to interrupt. So you have to kind of say things in a clever way that closes them off for comment, and maybe my instinct to say things that like make these circles that don't want to get built into Vince's conversation is actually derailing this interview. So I'm very sorry, Vince, and I'm very sorry, listeners.
No, I don't think so. I just think it's really interesting. And actually, I heard from a mathematician who then turned to a physicist that Einstein actually had a mathematician who he went to for help with maths, who did a lot of maths for him.
Oh, that's fascinating. I'm wondering who that was. So he was best friends with my hero Gödel, but I don't know if it would have been Gödel, because Gödel was super weird. Although it could have been Gödel. Have you come across I think it's called the Gödel relativistic metric?
I don't think so.
Oh, it's brilliant. So it was given to him, given to Einstein by Gödel as a birthday present.
Okay.
And it's so part of what relativity is it's a set of rules that universes have to obey for certain things to work out in a nice way. And it makes a lot of semi-intuitive sense. So to say intuitive is maybe taking it too strong, because the Lorentz effect and space-time being weird is a bit funny, but it's not hyper unintuitive. And so Gödel realized that you could take these axioms and you could construct something that was absolutely bizarre and alien, and that worked relativistically. So I feel like I should Google it before I tell everyone about it and remember it wrong. But it's stuff like, I think if you start and you look in a direction, then you can see yourself looking in that direction because of the way that light works in the Gödel metric, in the Gödel relativistic metric. And Einstein thought it was so crazy that he for the first time in his life, he doubted relativity.
I think he knew a thing or two about that.
Yeah. Sorry, I forgot what that was in reference to, Vince. Maybe it was just a silly story.
Yeah. Mathematicians. I know that he only worked Einstein. I think he worked at, was it Princeton? Only so that he could walk home with Kurt Gödel, I think it was.
Yeah, that's the one.
Yeah. So sorry, Harry. I'm aware that you have to go soon.
Oh, flip! Yeah, time
has
flown.
But quickly, where can we find out more about you?
My LinkedIn profile.
Okay.
I'm sure Vince can. It's probably linkedin.com/Harry Moyse, or something like that.
LinkedIn.com/in/Harry Moyse. But
perfect.
Yeah, I can put that in the description.
Anyway, so message me there if you're interested in talking about machine learning or my silly projects or Gödel or anything like that.
Brilliant. Thanks, Harry. It's
Anyway.
been fantastic, but I think you have to go. Brilliant.
God bless. Bye.
You do have an awesome time. See ya.